Hey everybody, Mark Brayer here in the studio, and I've got my little astronaut here because today's drawing is going to be in outer space. In a way, what we're going to do today is draw, or learn to draw, or watch me draw one of my original characters called a crater critter. Crater critter? Yeah. And it's one of my original designs. And if it sounds exciting to you and it sounds interesting and fun, then let's not talk about it anymore. Let's head on over to the drawing board and get started. All right, here we are at the iPad and we're ready to get started here. And first I wanted to show you basically a quick sketch of what this is going to look like, or what our drawing is going to look like. And that is right here. And I'll bring this up a little bit. And there he is right there. That's our crater critter. And I just did this pre-drawing originally just to give myself an idea of what kind of layout I wanted to do. And that's what I came up with. He's just a little cute little guy, crater critter, and is sticking out of his crater on the moon or a planet or something like that. And what we'll do is we'll just turn this layer off and we'll go to our new drawing layer right here. And we'll use our Kyle's drawing box colored pencil, which I use for a pencil sometimes. And we'll get started so I can show you how I draw, how I approach a drawing, and how to do the sketch and draw our crater critter. So here we go. All right, so let's start here. And I will tell you that I start out pretty quickly just to get an idea of what I want to do. For example, there's our crater right there pretty quickly. Gives me an idea where that is. And this is rough the first time around because I'm just giving myself an idea. And here's our shape of our crater critter right here. He's kind of like that, kind of a strange bent looking rectangle like that. And then we've got two eyeballs on top. That one is generally very much larger than the other. And I make one a little bit smaller. And there's a thick eyelid that I kind of put around these, kind of like that, which just kind of gives a little bit of extra expression. And the eye itself kind of sits inside that eyelid. Get rid of that little bit of pencil line in there. So that gives me an idea. And then we've got a kind of a smile, a quirky little snarky smirk, crater critter smirk here. So we're going to do that. Kind of a little swoosh to give me the idea where it's going to be. A little lip. I have his lip sticking out way out there like he's got a giant lip underbite or something like that. We'll do that. And we'll put this little piece of his lip over here where it's sticking out on the other side. Okay, gives me an idea there. And then his hands. The crater critter hands are really small. I usually make them they just stick out the side like this. And I make a thumb, and I make an index, kind of an index finger, and then I do another big finger, and they basically just have 3 fingers. Do a little shadow there. And when we'll do this one over here, and we'll put another little thumb and a index finger and a little finger there too, just like that. And this one will kind of be sticking out of this side of his body, so we'll see a little bit of how it connects. This one, he's sort of turned a little that way, so that one's kind of hidden there a little bit. And now we'll just kind of do the eyes, where I kind of wanted to get him doing a little like, what? What's going on over there kind of look. So we'll kind of do an eye like that. An eye like that, kind of. He's starting to look that direction. He's kind of, this eye is kind of squinting a little bit, and this one's a little popped open. And like I said, these eyelids are sort of inside these big other outer skin piece that's on his head here, which I guess his eyeballs sort of make the top of his head in a way. So let's erase this little bit here. Let's erase that line inside there. Erase that line. Erase this line. Guess we want that there like that. Okay. Do this. Give him a little fatter over there. A little bit more girth right there. And you know, now that I see this, I see that it's too tall for this spot. So what I need to do is, well, try to move it, right? There we go. But what I need to do is grab my sketch and pull it down a little bit like that. Some more, because I have something else that I'm supposed to draw up here. It is a little antenna that sticks out of his head right here. We kind of, with a little ball on the end. And that's how they communicate with each other, I suppose, as crater critters would go. And then there's a couple little bumps. And I kind of put these little bumps on there. Little warts or bumps, or like a giant pickle, you know, little bumps and things like that. I have those on the side of them like that. There we go. And then we might want to have a little background here. Just put a little background, couple little other craters back here. With some shadow in there. Maybe another one over here, like that. All right, there we go. Okay. Need some shadow here, like that. All right. Okay, now what I'm going to do is refine it a little bit more. This is the pre-sketch. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this down in my opacity here a little bit. Down to 35. Then I'll add another layer on top here. Okay, I'm still using this pencil. I might want to make it a little darker this time. Okay, so now what we're kind of, that needs to be a little less. There we go. There we go. And now we're going to make this a little bit more refined. A little like that. I wonder if I want that eyeball sort of looking down like that. Try something like that. That looks a little better there. It's more what I was looking for. And it looks good there. And I think that's good there. Kind of have that smirk come up there. Okay, looks a little better. Still think that looks pretty good. I think the hand looks good. I don't think I need to do much refinement there. Come over here, do a little bit on the actual crater here. Get some shading right there. Maybe a little edge. So we know what we're doing when we start that inking process. Shade that right there. I think that looks good. All right. I think that looks pretty good. All right, now what we'll do is we'll bring that down a little bit. Bring this down a little bit more. Now we'll add another layer and we'll do the ink. We'll actually make the ink now. And usually when I ink, I'll use something called, let's see here, it is either called a studio pen, which is a smooth pen like that I have smoothing added to, or I use a Jasinki ink pen, which tends to give you some thick lines and some thin lines and thick lines. So I think I might go with Jasinki here, just because I want to get some dramatic lines here. So make sure we're on the right layer, and we are. I don't know how many times I have actually inked on my pencil layer, and then the ink and the pencil is together and you have to spend a lot of time of cleanup. So please try to remember to ink on just your separate layer. It'll save you much trouble in the end for sure. So let's try here. Let's start our little drawing here, our little ink process. And we'll come across here like this. Yeah, might give that a little bit of a shadow there. Not bad. Do our there we go. Not bad. And then we'll try to do the other one here. And we get a little bit of those wrinkles there that shows, nah, I don't like that at all. That didn't look good. Little wrinkles from his hand sticking out there. We're going to come up here like that. And we're giving him a dark line on this side because more light is coming from this way. That's what I've decided. More light's here and our shadow's over here. So we want to make these lines a little darker. Oop, that's too much. No, I don't like that. That's not bad there. Let's get rid of that little bit of extra there. Got a little extra line there. Can fix that. And then we have to get that little extra shadow in there. Do this side. Bring that down there. Come over here. Do this eye. Kind of do the inside. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Let's see here. Okay. Do that little bit there. And as I said, what we have here is kind of a fat upper eyelid that kind of, it holds the eyeballs in there. And the eyeballs kind of float inside that upper eyelid a little bit there. Do a little shading there. Might do that there. Now we'll do our eyeball. And do this eyeball here. Let's see here. Nope, don't like that either. Not bad. Now we want to do our little antenna. Not bad. Now we'll go down here and we'll do a little finishing on the, on the actual crater. Actually, we can use our there we go. There we go. A little bit of lines there to give you the impression of a raised up out of the ground a little bit. All right, now we need a few of those pickle spots, we can call them. A bit of shadow. Do one down here. Oh, that doesn't look good. That doesn't look good either. That's better. Okay. And you want to make sure when you do those spots, things that are on an actual creature's body or a figure, you want to make sure that you tilt the shape that direction to follow that curve. And then when you come over here, bring them and tilt them this direction. Just those little details that kind of give you a little bit of dimension in your drawing there. So, okay. All right. Going to thicken this line up a little bit. I think that was a little too much. Or a little too little, I should say. And there we go. And that. And then we're going to do our background here. couple more craters there with some shading. And there we go. Do some more of that, little details in the background there. All right. I think we're pretty close here. All right, there we go. Try a few little lines to give it a little texture there. I think we're pretty good there. Now, if you want to, we can try to do this. Let's add another layer here to do that. And we can go to our larger inker here. And we can put some color in the background here. Kind of give it a little bit of a space background back there. Might have to do that, fill that up. There we go, fill that up. Come around here like that. Autofill that. There we go. And then we could also give it a little bit of, if we want to, we can take our little eraser. We can put some stars in here, like that. Stars, actually, when you make stars, you don't have to make the actual shape of a star, but you do want to make some big ones, some small ones, some medium-sized ones. Be very random with the stars that you make. Make sure they're not grouped together all in the same place. Make sure you've got a variety and they're all around there. And that's pretty good there. Even though on the moon, if this is the moon, you wouldn't necessarily see stars because of the way the surface is so bright and the sun is so bright. A lot of times it's just hard to see for those stars to show up. That's what I've read about the Apollo astronauts when they were there. They really couldn't see the stars. It was just a black sky. So there you go. That's our crater critter. I hope you enjoyed drawing it. I think it would be fun. You can draw it traditionally on a piece of paper, or you can do it digitally on the iPad. But I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was fun. And always, as always, I like to ask, if you like what we're doing here, like watching this drawing and how I show you how to do some drawing, subscribe to my channel right down there or right over there. I'm not sure where it pops up at the end. And come back and see more. Alrighty. See you later.